Valentine's story began tragically, like so many others involving neglected animals. He was found by chance in a place of complete abandonment after years of suffering. Somehow, this dog managed to escape from the warehouse where he had been locked up for practically his entire life, and, luckily, a neighbor saw his brief moment of freedom. When this neighbor came across the situation, he could not ignore the dog's deplorable state. Although the owner quickly tried to capture him back and locked him back in the warehouse, the neighbor, moved by a deep sense of compassion and justice, made the decision to intervene. The neighbor contacted our rescue team, and we immediately went to the location. What we found was devastating: a dirty, dark, and unsanitary warehouse where the poor dog had spent the last years of his life without ever knowing the warmth of a home or the affection of a human. His appearance was one of pure abandonment. The dog, who we soon named Valentine, was skeletal, with his ribs visible and almost no muscles on his body. He was so malnourished that it was hard to believe he was still alive. The veterinarian who treated him was shocked by his critical state of health. The dog's back was practically bones covered in thin, injured skin, while his hips were covered in ticks and open wounds, the result of the extreme neglect to which he had been subjected. Valentine's story went beyond a simple case of neglect. He had been locked in that warehouse for 7 years. 7 long years of solitude, deprivation, and suffering, without ever leaving his confinement. The neighbor who called us was a key player in unmasking the owner's negligence, who, when confronted by the authorities, absurdly claimed that he did not even know the dog was in the warehouse. He said that perhaps the dog was lost, trying to avoid any responsibility. However, this lie was quickly exposed by the neighbor, who clearly stated that the dog had been in that place for years, being completely neglected. After the rescue, Valentine was taken to the shelter, where he began to receive the necessary care for his recovery. The emotional impact of the rescue was profound not only for the dog, but for everyone involved. Many people in the community were touched by his story and began visiting him, bringing him toys and treats. For the first time in his life, Valentine began to feel what it was like to be loved and cared for. He needed a special diet to start gaining weight, and little by little, it was possible to see him recovering from extreme malnutrition. Each meal he ate represented a small victory, a new chance to survive and live a dignified life. In addition to food, Valentine also discovered the comfort of a soft bed. For a dog who had spent years living in a dirty and hostile environment, the simple act of lying down in a cozy place was like a dream come true. It wasn't long before he also discovered the joy of having friends. At the shelter, Valentine began to interact with other dogs, something he had never experienced before. For the first time, he ran freely, played, and enjoyed the company of other animals. His physical recovery was slow but steady. The balanced diet and exercise helped him gain muscle mass, something he had completely lost. The daily runs at the shelter were essential for Valentine to recover not only his physical strength, but also his joy for life. It was as if, with each passing day, he rediscovered his own essence, his desire to be happy and loved. Throughout this process, the authorities kept the case open against Valentine's owner. The blatant lie that the dog was not his was not enough to prevent him from being held responsible for the suffering he caused. The complaint was filed, and the process continued. In the meantime, Valentine was free from any danger and surrounded by love and care. As time went by, the bond between Valentine and his new rescue family grew stronger. He became the center of attention at the shelter, receiving affection from all the volunteers and visitors. His joy was contagious. He was no longer the sad, emaciated dog we found in that warehouse. Little by little, his body recovered, his coat began to shine again, and he gained weight. His wounds were treated, and his face began to reflect the happiness of someone who had finally found love. The moment of farewell was bittersweet. Valentine was ready for his new life, to find a permanent home where he would be loved for the rest of his days. Everyone at the shelter felt Valentine's departure, but they knew that his future would be filled with love and care. He said goodbye to his canine friends and volunteers with gratitude in his eyes, as if he knew that this rescue journey had changed his life forever. Today, Valentin is living a new life. He was adopted by a family who promised to care for him with all the love he always deserved. No one will ever hurt him again. He is protected, safe, and surrounded by affection. His story is a powerful reminder of the impact that love, compassion, and action can have on the life of a vulnerable being. Valentin's rescue journey is proof that even in the most difficult situations, there is always hope. His transformation from an abandoned, neglected, and sick dog to a happy, healthy, and loved animal shows us the power of solidarity and care. Thank you to everyone who participated in this journey and helped change Valentin's life forever.